The next stage then is your system test plan, and this is where we harken back to the requirements. So this one is much the same in format. It's, we can actually toss in another table, and we'll yeah, well, three will work fine for now here. And again, this will be many more than this. So this can be the system test ID inside of there. Sometimes some projects will name all their tests. They'll have everything numbered the same. Sometimes they'll have tests numbered by there. Sometimes you don't number at all. I like to have some sort of numbering system here because then it gives you something to talk about. So test ID, whatever, and then we can say requirement description, and then test scenario overview. Again, this is not formalized documentation. This is not necessarily what you would build even in the testing class to get to the final product there. But this is, that's quite a little bit too small on this one, sorry. This is what we're looking for here to kind of show, again, our goal is to tie each of these large development lifecycle phases together. And how does our tests follow through from our design and our requirements, and then how do the requirements and design influence our tests. So given this, the requirement description is, you could copy and paste it. It's not really required to copy and paste it. And a lot of this is going to be based off of what type of requirements you're going to do. So if you've done use cases, then it could be the add collection use case here. Something along those lines. And so the test scenario here for test 1 is test the happy flow for adding a collection. And then we could go here, we can say test the alternate flow 1 for whatever that is going to be. And then again, we can put number 3 here is test the error flow for bad user input. The idea is we want to test the different requirements that are coming up, and the use case has many different flows that are generated based off of the exception flows and the alternative flows. The use case itself is one nice little happy flow. Each alternative shows different things that could go wrong. Users could come up differently, or a number of things that could be happening inside of there. So what we want to do then is we want to focus on each of those flows individually and have test cases that says, hey, when stuff goes right, it works. When stuff goes wrong, the system does what it's supposed to. That didn't work necessarily in the way that the outcome, but it works according to the requirements. This is the type of thing we want to capture here. This is for use cases. So for use cases, basically we have a number of these things here. Let's say instead, we'll say this is 10, 11, 12 inside of here. Let's say these were more of the shall requirements, the numbered requirements that we were talking about. The requirement could be something along the lines of ensure price integrity. Okay, so when the collection is edited, check it creates a fail on a negative price. So again, ensure price integrity probably said there was a requirement like the price shall be positive and a dollar value with 2 decimal points, and it shall not be greater than $1 million. So that could be what the requirement is, and so I could have one or a number of test cases for that. So I could say make sure it fails on a negative price, and maybe there's other things instead of there. Refuses more than 2 decimal places and is less than $1 million. So that's the idea behind here, is I have a test that does this. Now, we talked about in the previous video scenarios. Based off of what you see here, it would lead to a scenario. And you would have inputs and outputs and steps that would be having inside of here. I'm not asking you to capture 11 or 12 or 15 different test scenarios. That would take you hours and hours. And that's what you do in different classes through your sequence here. What I want you to do here is, again, every requirement that you had numbered there, whether it's a use case, and each use case, again, this is just one use case. You probably had other collections. So edit item use case. There might be 4 or 5 based off of this. Now, let's say you had 10 use cases. I don't expect 40 or 50 test cases. Again, I expect maybe a half a page. Down here, these are based off of each one of those numbered shall requirements. So you should have gone out and created something that was traceable. And you've either done it through bullet points, or you've done it through, which should be numbered lists, or you've done it through tables, or you have some other mechanism. So each and every one of those requirements in a full system would be tied to one or more test cases, depending on how you're doing the test cases. And so let's say you had 30 of them. Again, I don't need to see 35, 50, 60, 70 test cases, but I'd like to see like a half a page or so. Take the most important ones and give it to me. Not 2 or 3 or 4. Again, a half a page, 10, 15 of those should have some tests associated with that. And then you're just giving us the overview, the strategy by which somebody will go off and create it. What is the thing they're trying to get out of that? And again, we're trying to get those ties from the requirements into the system test plan. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and tie into the user acceptance test plan. This test plan is really much the same as what's happening up here, just in less detail. So let me go ahead and just insert one of these, because conceptually we have a table here. I'm going to put a 4th column inside of here. And so this will be UAT, user acceptance ID, inside of here. Again, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. The next thing could be a decision for you. Do you want to create your own test plan? So you could have the same thing in here, requirements description and test scenario. You could do that. Or you could say STID. You could retest one of those. And then what we want to capture is the tester, who's testing it, and then the environment. Something like that. This is an alternative. So the idea is, if I did it this way, I might be testing number 4 here, because we want to test edit, but we're not. The user acceptance might not test every single one of these. They're going to be testing some of them. So, well, actually, let's start here. We would test number 1 here and number 4, and the tester here could be the business user, or down here it could be a sample user, somebody who I've, some test user. And the environment up here could be SIT environment, because it's going to be done early, and this could be the UAT environment inside of here, or something like that. This is one way you could approach this. This is assuming you're just going to reuse those tests, you're going to use those test cases. Now, you might not do it this way. You might not take this approach to it at all. You might, instead of reusing test cases, which again is perfectly acceptable, you might be saying, you know what, our business users don't know about test cases. What we're going to have is we're going to have the tester and the time frame and then the goals that they're going to have. And so the tester could be the business user. And the time frame is going to be, whatever it's going to be. It could be March, could be inside March here, or you could be more specific. It'd be post SIT, and then the goal here is to check the system meets the legal requirements. Okay, and then you could have a sample beta user inside of here. The time frame could be after the business. And then the goal here is usability and ability to meet tasks, things like that. So the user acceptance testing plan could be very formalized type of testing that leads on or continues on from the system testing plan. Could look exactly the same right there. You could write your own formal test cases for that. Or I'm giving you 2 alternatives for that, which is just saying, I'm going to run those tests I created before, and these are the people I'm going to have run them. Or just say, hey, I just want you to go check off this stuff. The issue with this is a little bit less formalized. If they find issues, you have to hunt down what the issues are, technical bugs. But ideally, the technical bugs are out of the way by the time you hit user acceptance testing. Ideally, what you're focused on at this point is just simply having that user be comfortable with the system so you can have a little bit more leniency. Again, this probably should be a third to a half of a page on the user acceptance plan. It's probably going to be shorter than the other ones, and that's okay. All right, so now take a moment and try out these two plans, and then we'll kind of wrap it up all together with the quality assurance plan before we get out of here.